Hello, Waffle 2021. We're really excited to be here to share some new information, new approaches to language proficiency assessment using a product called Extempore for any language, including Indigenous languages. And so here are my co-presenters, Braden Schrupp and Veronica Trapani, and we'll be introducing ourselves as we talk during this brief presentation. So what we'll be sharing today is a little bit about Washington's journey to the seal of biliteracy, and in particular, why equity has been key in Washington and how that's influenced us to go way above and beyond to make sure that we are offering opportunities for virtually any language to be tested. We'll tell you a little bit about what we mean by superlictals, less commonly taught or tested languages. And then we're going to share some big changes in 2021 and 2022. And then we're going to get a little brief tour of some of the features of Extempore and just talk a bit about why we think this will be a great direction for our state. So I'm Michele Aokii. I was the World Languages Program Supervisor for OSPI when we first developed the World Language Competency-Based Credit Testing and when we passed the State Seal of Biliteracy legislation in our state. And then I retired in 2019 from Seattle Public Schools, and now I just volunteer with WAFLT, the Waffle Testing team. So I'm really wearing that hat today, the Waffle Testing team. So I'd like to turn it over to Veronica, and she can introduce herself and give you a little picture of the journey to the seal of biliteracy in Washington.
Thank you so much, Michele. And hello, my name is Dr. Veronica Trapani, and I have recently had a little bit of a title change. I am now the Associate Director for Content focused on world language and international education. Same job, nicer title. So you'll notice that Washington's journey really started back almost, more than 20 years ago in 1997. And it moved from simply, why can't my students earn Russian credits if they speak Russian, and moved forward into looking at more proficiency-based credit and earnings. So looking at competency-based credits for students, building a world language advisory group, moving into a world language assessment day, which all of those kind of created the foundation of our competency-based credits, which then led to our roadmap world language credit program. So these were all originally supported by the Gates Foundation. And during this time period, California had also started and had adopted their original seal of biliteracy in 2011. And Washington then adopted our own version in 2014. And so since then, since 2015, with our first students, we've had thousands of students in dozens of languages. So you'll see there was the original signing. And so we've actually just had our first seal of biliteracy rule change adoption, currently undergoing the process. So this is a living, breathing document and program that is constantly being updated to meet the new needs of our students, of our state population. And really, though, what is at the heart of all of it is our equity, our promise and to equity. And so part of that world language, the Seal of Biliteracy rules change was making sure that we were providing equity for our students who not only speak English as a first language, but for our students who have another language as their first language, as their L1. And so we made sure to update the rules so now that English, for our students who are looking to earn the Seal of Biliteracy, English is simply done by graduating with their ELA in their pathway. And then now our world language side of the seal, we have been also dedicated to our superlictals and our super less commonly taught languages. And now we are currently looking at a new way of assessing those languages that don't have a lot of other assessments. And so I'll kick that over to Michele now.
Thank you. So in 2014, the Waffle Testing team got born out of the need to have some way of supporting the languages that weren't covered by our assessment companies. Basically, we had the philosophy, we don't ever want to say no to a language. So if a student came to the counselor and said, I need to be tested in Chuk or in Tedim or Chin or any number of languages, Tongan, that we would have a way to meet the needs of that student. And so we added new languages every year because there were always new students that would show up with new requests. And actually, one year we worked with the Quinault Indian tribe to test a student in Quinault. It was actually a University of Washington student, but same process basically. We also had to work with how to pay for the assessments. These were mostly paid for by the districts. And some of that, I have to say, some of our superlictals did cost a lot because we were chasing down people around the globe who might be in, working in an embassy or something like that, who had the language skills we were looking for. The other thing that the WAFLT testing team has tried to do is simply mentor district schools and community-based programs on the technology and testing logistics, just to encourage them. You can do it, show them what to do and how to do it, help them get things. We also, by the way, purchase medallions for the state seal of biliteracy, and small districts can order their medallions through WAFLT, so they don't need to have a big volume contract. So that's been an important part of WAFLT advocacy. So we've been using this term superlictal. Now, what is that? Well, in the language world, mostly higher education, they talk about less commonly taught languages, LCTL, lictal. And I say it's not just less commonly taught, it's more like they're less commonly tested. But these are superlictals because even all of the major testing companies in the country, such as Alta Language Testing, which is one we use for a lot of languages, Avant Assessment down in Oregon, which offers the Stamp 4S and the WS WorldSpeak, and Language Testing International, which is ACFL's testing company, which offers Apple and OPI and OPIC and WPT. Those are all great testing companies, and they test together really dozens and dozens, you could probably say hundreds of languages, but there are some that they don't test. And so that's what we mean by superlictal, the ones that you go to the list and you didn't find that language. So we're here to try to help out. So how WAFLT did this is that originally, and this actually started when I was working at OSPI, we partnered with the Center for Applied Second Language Studies at the University of Oregon, Castles, and Avant Assessment, which is the company that provides the stamp assessments that were originally developed at Castles. And we got from them prompts that we could use for writing and speaking. So our WAFLT testing team would provide a handwritten writing prompts, like in other words, a PDF that could be printed and the students could write out the writing part. But we needed a technology solution for making the recordings. And so we've had several solutions working with Castles, with LinguaFolio Online. We also worked with Avant, with ClassPack for some years. And then we had a wonderful relationship with Monique Roske of M2 Language Consulting, who worked with many less commonly taught languages around the world for translation and interpreting services, primarily for the government. And she was so persistent. She would find any language, somebody qualified to evaluate any language we came across. And of course, she was sometimes communicating with people across the globe, and we had to have an environment for that reason that we could get these tests to the person and they could access them to see them and do the evaluations and send back the results. So that's been a real challenge for us, but we've managed, and we've literally had hundreds of students test that way. But now there are some big changes that came in 2020, 2021, and are coming for the coming year, 2021 and 2022. So first of all, our national coordinator, Monique, as I mentioned, retired in June 2020, and she was honored last year at the WAFLT Fall Conference with the ProLingua Award for her amazing contributions to this effort. In addition, Avant Assessment, who had worked for a long time with Monique, was very familiar with her work in advocacy for languages, agreed to help us in WAFLT coordinate this superlictal evaluation process in this past year. Of course, this was a COVID year, so we didn't have as many tests as we've had in some years, and we were able to work through some of the kind of kinks and special things that had to be figured out to be able to continue the effort. But this summer, in summer 2021, OSPI and Avant have been meeting to work on an agreement that OSPI will now coordinate these superlictal language tests for districts, and working with Avant to actually get the evaluation of these languages done. So this is a big step forward for WAFLT, and big step forward for our state. So here are some of the changes to this kind of superlictal, what we've been calling custom testing for fall 2021. First of all, WAFLT will partner with Extempore to provide the superlictal testing online platform. So that will be the platform that districts will access for these students to be able to take the tests. Districts that want tests will contact Dr. Veronica Trapani, whom you just met, to request the tests for these languages. Extempore will create the writing and speaking tests on their platform, and they will use prompts that are developed by WAFLT. So these will be professionally done by a testing company. Waffle Testing, then, our role will really to be a cheerleader. You could say we just want to partner with Extempore to offer a more robust environment to allow students more opportunities to practice before they come and take a test, and also as a resource for especially some of the languages that don't have community-based schools and other programs that have supported some of the larger languages of immigrant groups in our state. So we're just beginning that effort, but we're excited about the opportunity. And what we'd like to do now is just share with you what Extempore has to offer and why we think that's an exciting move for our state. Thanks, Braden. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's really a pleasure to be here, and we're really excited about the opportunity to help support these efforts and help make sure that we're not saying no to any students who would be able to deserve these world language credits. So I'll give you a little bit of background on Extempore and a little bit of why our platform will be used. We're an online platform dedicated for supporting practice and assessments for all modes of communication in the language classroom and for all levels of proficiency in any language in a way that's convenient for teachers and students. And so when we're able to cover, by being able to cover all the languages, that's why Extempore is being used to facilitate these world language credit assessments. And our platform, it really is meant to be very simple, creating everything in 3 simple steps. So I'll walk you through those here. Starting with 1 is just when the instructor creates the activities on the desktop. With the superlictals here, this step would be completed by Extempore. Once those are created, students can go and record the answers on either a computer or mobile device, and then instructors would then grade those assessments and provide feedback, which with the superlictals will be done by the specific graders for the language. I'll have you jump to the next slide and I'll walk through these steps in a little more detail so you can see them further. So step 1, instructor creates the assessment. So this is just a quick view of what these looks like. There is a wide variety of options on the left when you're creating for determining these parameters. So assessments can be created as a group or individual assessment. So whether you want to have interpersonal communication between groups of students that is recorded and then reviewed and provide feedback. Also individual assessments, which we use for the superlictals. And then you can determine how you want students to respond with either video, audio, or text. So we cover all modes of communication. From there, the other parameters are customizing any rubrics or specific grading proficiency scales that you would like to grade these assessments on. And then determining how much time you want the student to have for reviewing and responding to that question. So extempore is Latin for spoken or done without preparation. So we want to try to get that spontaneous, authentic response. So once you create the parameters for the assessment, you are then able to add your specific questions to it. So with these questions, you can upload, it can incorporate text and then upload your own files directly from your computer, either image, video, or audio. You can also record authentic prompts with video or audio recorder as well, where students would then review and then submit their responses through mobile or computer. So go ahead and step onto move to the next slide.
I will. I just want to say that part of what's really attractive to us about this feature, about adding the prompts or the questions that these teacher or the coordinator can set up, is that it is so rich in what you can offer. It doesn't have to just be words like a sentence telling you what to do. It could be a video thing, it could be audio, and so that could also make this way more friendly, user friendly for students, because some students don't read English well, and so if you're asking the prompt in English, English. That can be challenging. And so we're looking for ways, especially when we're trying to create an environment for students to develop their language over time, that they're just invited into the language and culture through this additional feature.
Yeah, yep. And then, so once those are created and posted for students to submit their responses, they simply click in, they'll read or watch or listen to the prompt, and then you are able to set up those specific timers, as you can see, to ensure you have that spontaneous response, and students will record the response via video, audio, or text. So you have the various different prompts that you can use and mediums that you can use for students to submit those responses. Once those are submitted, I'll have you move on to the next slide. Instructors are able to review this information, grade, and then provide feedback. And this creates a digital portfolio of the student responses too. So allowing them to reflect back on their prior submissions, what the question was. As you can see in the upper left, they have the question for weather with their video response to the submission. On the right, there's their actual grade, and then below, the instructor can provide video feedback via video, audio, or text. And also can do so in line. So at 10 seconds into the student's response, I can insert feedback specific to that respective section.
That's going to be exciting, especially again in the formative world. You'd like to be able to give the students feedback on how they're doing. And since this will be all online, we could potentially find speakers of rather some of these less commonly taught and tested languages that are, who knows where they're at, someplace in this country or maybe abroad, who could actually look at student samples and provide feedback to the students to really encourage them to continue to develop their language.
Right. Yep. It really helps just provide the level of customization to use it in whatever way that you see fit, whether it is going to be a higher stakes formative, summative assessment, such as the superlictal, these world language credit assessments, or simple just formative assessments for reviewing for oral readings or free writes, free talks. Live conversations, allowing students to reflect back and continue to improve, and allowing teachers to extend the classroom to generate additional speaking outside of it, because it is hard to get that speaking practice outside of the classroom. Move on to the next one here. The main benefits with Extempore is, I just look to the next slide.
Oh, is this one that I'm on the use Extempore? Sorry. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks. Yep. Last slide here, just the main benefits of it are being able for teachers to optimize their teaching time. So rather than having to schedule one-on-one interviews or rescheduling it, you're able to have students do those all at the same time simultaneously in the classroom or outside of the classroom. You're assessing authentic speech instead of scripted responses, and getting that spontaneous response. Grading on the go on your own time using desktop or mobile device. And then you don't have to do any file management. It's all much more organized online for you. But then, in addition for the students too, they're getting that additional speaking practice to reach a higher level of proficiency and being able to do so outside of the classroom. We also all know, speaker anxiety. Students have challenges or sometimes feel nervous speaking up in front of the class. This helps make it more of a one-on-one interaction where the student maybe doesn't have those concerns, and then easy for them to access instructor feedback to also help improve for the future too.
Yeah, that's great. I can totally agree with this. What we found with other tools we've used, like Linguafolio Online in our Star Talk program for Russian heritage language speakers, for example, is that when it moved to being an app-based thing on their phone, it was so much easier to get them to record things and all, because they could just do it spontaneously. They're like, if they're on a scavenger hunt, they just are right there with another classmate and they describe what they've seen and whatever, but they can just do it on the spot. It's hard to have that kind of spontaneous communication if you're having to go to a lab, sit down, log into an app, and so into an application or something, or make a recording and send it to somebody. To be able to just do it right easily on the spot will make a big difference. So thank you so much, Braden, for that great explanation. And this was, again, just a kind of a taste of where we're heading this year with our support in Washington State for these less commonly taught and tested languages, superlictals. So that will apply both to students being able to earn credits for world language competency-based credit testing, which can then qualify them for the state seal of biliteracy. But we also hope that we're heading in a direction that will provide students opportunities, maybe from an earlier age, say middle school age at least, to be working on their language skills over a number of years, so that by the time they get to high school and they want to test for the seal of biliteracy, they're really confident of their language skills. And it'll be maybe a focal point for us to draw in community members also to support these languages and be in kind of the role of a teacher or an instructor, hopefully with the support of other really experienced, excellent language teachers. So that's pretty much what we wanted to share today. And so stay in touch with us. We'll be having more news as things go forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Braden.